Thank you, Dr. Mavru, for introducing me. Baroness Massey, Baroness Nicholson, Mr. Zanetu, Deputy Mayor of Famagusta, Mr. Brahimi's Councillor at the Famagusta Municipality, Your Excellency, the Ambassador of Greece, Right Reverend Athanasios of Trobeo, members of the Famagusta Association of Great Britain, ladies and gentlemen, Christos Karaoulis, friend, President of the National Federation of Cypriots in the UK. I know maybe during my intervention, other members of Parliament might be dropping in, so even though I'm not mentioning them by name, our thoughts and thanks with those that will be coming later on too. Thank you for the opportunity to say a few words at what I understand is an annual event that on the one hand celebrates the National Day of the Republic of Cyprus, whilst on the other hand reminds us all of the continued Turkish occupation of the northern third of the island of Cyprus, and specifically the town of Famagusta and the fenced area of Varosha. Dr. Mavru, I must congratulate you and your colleagues for your continued passion and commitment to keeping high on the individual and collective consciousness here in the United Kingdom of the over 45 years of injustice, human suffering, and gross violation of human rights at the hands of Turkey. 45 plus years that the people of Famagusta, in fact, the people of Cyprus as a whole, continue to endure. Those who were fortunate enough to have visited Famagusta and Varosha prior to its occupation will remember the pure magic of the town. A bubbling, thriving, exciting town where history and modernity coexisted in a symbiotic manner. Who can forget the crystal clear turquoise transparent waters and white sands of Glapsides or Kennedy Avenue with all the hotels, or the municipal market with the kiosks outside with the aroma of souvlaki. 45 years on, the memories and images are as alive today for the people of Famagusta as they were back then. They have a right to return to their ancestral homes, as do all refugees forcibly expelled in 1974. Both my parents came from the Famagusta region, and the one thing that has always stuck in my mind when talking to them, both about their respective homes in their villages, was the power of the word home. Home was not four walls, a few windows and a door. It was much more than that. It was the smells, the vegetation, the neighbours, the togetherness, the village square, the feast day. That sentiment, that magnet, remains intact for all refugees. The legitimate rights, hopes and aspirations of the people of Famagusta to return home, as well as the very clear position of the international community on the status of Varosha, is today under even more of a threat than ever before. It is worth recalling in broad brushstrokes what the position of the international community is regarding the framework for the return of Varosha to its lawful inhabitants, as defined through numerous UN Security Council resolutions. Firstly, Resolution 482 of 1980, where the Security Council reiterated its support to the 1979 high-level agreement, which placed priority on reaching agreement on the resettlement of Varosha, and without waiting for the outcome of the discussions on other aspects of the Cyprus problem. Resolution 550 of 1984, where the Security Council expressed its deep concern about recent threats for settlement of Varosha by people other than its inhabitants, and noted that attempts to settle any part of Varosha is inadmissible, and called for the transfer of the area to the administration of the United Nations. Resolution 789 of 1992, where the Security Council urged that with a view to the implementation of Resolution 550, the area at present under the control of UNFICYP be extended to cover Varosha. And most recently, only last month, or earlier this summer, where the Security Council recalled the status of Varosha as set out in the resolutions. I mention these resolutions because quite clearly Varosha was and still is seen as a highly important issue. To date, Varosha was one aspect of the occupation in respect of which, until recently, no additional fait accomplis were created on the ground since 1974. This is no longer the case and is an issue of extreme concern. The concern is certainly amplified when coupled with the aggressive posture and illegal activities of Turkey in the exclusive economic zone of the Republic of Cyprus that has been ratcheted up recently. What we have been witnessing in recent months as regards Varosha is a steady diet of statements and actions that run contrary to UN Security Council resolutions and which clearly telegraph the aggressive and highly negative intentions of Turkey and its subordinate local administration in the occupied area. I would merely like to recall that 4 Turkish ministers have visited Varosha over the last few months, with most recently Foreign Minister Çavuşoğlu, who declared that, quote, preparations are underway and Varosha will be open. He announced also Turkey's intention to open a Consulate General of Turkey in the wider Varosha area. I'd like to recognise Right Honourable Christopher Pincher, Minister of State for Europe and the Americas, who's come in. Thank you, Minister. Today, however, the danger of this fait accompli has never been so near or so imminent. It is difficult to see how we could salvage the peace process from the devastating blow that it would be dealt with if these threats were to materialise. Today, it is critical that our friends multiply the voices of concern and the very real dangers that such actions by Turkey bring to efforts for a Cyprus solution. The seriousness of the threat is matched with the seriousness with which the government of Cyprus has shown by raising the issue at the UN Security Council recently. The briefing given resulted in a Security Council press statement on the 9th of October, where the Security Council recalled the importance of the status of Varosha and reiterated that no action should be carried out in relation to Varosha that are not in accordance with the relevant UN Security Council resolutions. Honourable members, excellencies, friends, my government has been constantly advocating for the return of Varosha to its lawful and rightful owners and inhabitants under the auspices of the UN. We have proposed this as a confidence-building measure time and time again, and time again it has been met with a negative Turkish response. Most recently, President Anastasiadis again proposed a tangible confidence-building measure, acceptance of which would, we believe, contribute greatly to the efforts to creating a climate conducive to the resumption of the peace process. Allow me to focus on this last point, namely the President's commitment to finding a just, lasting and durable solution within the framework established, a bizonal, bicommunal federation with a single sovereignty, single international personality, single citizenship, with political equality as defined by UN resolutions, and where the human rights and fundamental freedoms for all Cypriots will be safeguarded. A solution where the reunification will be without occupation forces and anachronistic guarantor power provisions. The President has stated his commitment to return to the negotiations table to resume where the Crans-Montana talks ended. However, this commitment to a resumption of the talks and to finding a solution is becoming a prisoner of the Turkish belligerence regarding Varosha, its illegal actions in the exclusive economic zone, and a more acute expression of a policy centred solely on might is right. No one here, I believe, expects negotiations to be possible against this backdrop. At such times, a clear and strong voice from the United Kingdom in support of the efforts of the President, of the sovereignty and of the sovereign rights of the Republic of Cyprus takes on added importance and significance. Mr. Deputy Mayor, allow me to end by saying you are here amongst friends and people who care with what happens to Varosha, to Famagusta and Cyprus more generally. Thank you.
Distinguished guests, on behalf of my committee, Famagusta Association, I would like to welcome all of you to our event today for the Independence Day of Cyprus and the case for Famagusta. My special thanks goes to His Grace Bishop of Trοπαίου, Athanasios, the Minister of Europe, the Right Honourable Christopher Pincher, our distinguished members of the House of Commons and House of Lords, the Ambassador of Cyprus, Ανδρέας Κακουρής, the Cyprus Deputy Ambassador, Nicholas Manoli, Greece's Ambassador, Δημήτριος Καραμήτσος Τζιράς, Lithuania's Ambassador, Renatas Norkus, Ghana's Ambassador, Papa Oyusu Ankoma, on behalf of His Excellency, Mr. Marin Ray-Korn, Bulgaria's Ambassador, Mr. Andrei Vlahov, and Mr. Harizan Harizanov. The representatives of the Famagusta municipality from Cyprus, Christathos Zanetou, Vice Mayor of Famagusta, and Andreas Vrahimis, Councillor. I would particularly like to thank the President of the APPG for Cyprus, Sir Roger Gale, and the Vice President of the APPG for Cyprus, Bambos Charalambous, for making possible this event today. I would also like to thank both of them for the great work that they do for Cyprus and its people. Cyprus has a very rich history and culture going back to over 12,000 years. The month of October is dedicated to celebrating Cyprus' independence. An independence, however, that did not fulfill the wishes of the Cypriot people. Cyprus became an independent sovereign state in 1960 due to serious pressure resulting mainly from an armed struggle taken up by the Greek population of the island, who demanded independence and union with Greece, Enosis. Britain took over the colonization of Cyprus from the Ottoman Turks, but denied the legitimate demands at the time for union with Greece. At the same time, it denied the universal right of self-determination of the Cypriot people. The large Greek population of Cyprus used to live and work peacefully alongside the small Turkish Cypriot ethnic community, and indeed other much smaller ethnic communities such as the Armenians, the Maronites, and the Latins. The Cypriot people, as well as a whole, felt oppressed under the rulers. They couldn't survive the hardship of high taxation and unemployment and started revolting. However, although the two main communities of Cyprus after the war continued to live and work peacefully alongside each other, as they always had, suddenly tensions began to emerge. This was a result of a general policy of preferential treatment in favor of the Turkish minority in Cyprus, especially in public sector jobs such as the police. This unfairness agitated nationalist feelings among Greek Cypriots, which in turn aroused suspicion, mistrust, and damaged the previously harmonious relationship enjoyed between the two communities. The common struggle against the rulers had been eroded. Instead, the Greek population of Cyprus started the main anti-colonial organized movement in Cyprus under EOKA. It was associated with the demands for union of Cyprus with Greece, and this has been considered by the people of Cyprus as the only natural outcome of the liberation of the Cypriot people from the Ottoman rule and later the British rule. A referendum was called by the leaders of the Greek population of the island, and nearly 96% supported union with Greece. In the meantime, the peaceful coexistence, cooperation, and unity of the people of Cyprus was seriously damaged. In addition, the second and perhaps the most dangerous recipe for disaster in the island was Turkey's continued interest in gaining back Cyprus. Turkish interests on Cyprus were revitalized and put into practice plans to create conditions for dividing the island. Turkey supported a different type of nationalism, one that was gradually developed into an anti-leftist, anti-Greek, and anti-ethnic cooperation ideology. The inter-communal conflict that followed assisted Turkey to claim their own slice of the cake once a solution was found. Turkish nationalism, which was associated with violence and killings amongst both Greek and Turkish Cypriots that encouraged unity and togetherness of the two communities, was met with similar aggression and violence from Greek nationalists who at the same time started the anti-colonial struggle with the aim of union with Greece. Britain's response to the anti-colonialist struggle and the growing violent conflict between the two communities was to include Greece and Turkey in the discussion for a solution to the problem. The search for a solution resulted in a conditional independence, burdened with both internal and external limitations and restrictions. The internal limitations included the breaking of the principle of a unitary state and the creation of a separate categories of citizenship for Greeks and Turks. The constitution was undemocratic, unworkable, unjust, sectarian, and even racist. The intercommunal conflict, unfortunately, continued after the independence in a more vigorous way, with victims both Greek Cypriots and Turkish Cypriots. The post-independence airstrikes and the use of napalm bombs by Turkey during the 1960s was a clear signal of Turkey's total commitment in achieving its ultimate aims, namely the division of the island by military force. Turkey seized an opportunity gifted by the devastating by the country coup d'etat organized by the Greek junta with the blessings of the United States of America against President Makarios in 1974. They invaded the Republic of Cyprus, and the Turkish military army seized nearly 40% of Cyprus territory. After brutally attacking the island by air and by sea through a remorseless and ruthless bombardment with napalm and other deadly bombs. Its army marched nearly unopposed, killing and injuring thousands of Cypriots. 200,000 refugees fled the violence and ran away to save their lives. Turkey invaded the independent sovereign state of Cyprus and illegally occupies the territory still to this date. The decision to set up a self-proclaimed Turkish state of northern Cyprus and the draw of a barbed-wired wall line of partition right through the capital city of Nicosia has had disastrous consequences for all Cypriots of both communities for over 45 years. Apart from the losses in life, economy, wealth, and property, Cyprus has lost the greater part of its rich cultural heritage, consisting of archaeological sites, monuments, museums, and their archaeological items of art, ancient churches, and monasteries, all destroyed, damaged, or stolen, along with their precious religious icons and mosaics. The Cypriot people have grown disappointed and deeply disillusioned with the lack of political power and will of the Security Council to implement its own resolutions. At the same time, many Cypriots see the United Kingdom's role in Cyprus as a guarantor power of its independence and sovereignty to be virtually non-existent. The United Kingdom has taken no serious initiatives at government level to honor and implement its legal responsibilities with regards to the island of Cyprus. Being a member of the Security Council, Britain should have played a vital role in achieving the application of Security Council resolutions in relation to the Republic of Cyprus. These resolutions clearly call on Turkey to remove its army of occupation from the northern part of Cyprus and create the conditions for the return of the refugees back to their homes in conditions of peace and security under the legitimate government of the Sovereign Republic of Cyprus. In accordance with the United Nations Security Council resolutions, such as the 550 and 789, as well as the high-level agreements between the Cyprus President Kyprianou and the Turkish Cypriot leader Denktash, the city of Famagusta should be returned to its lawful owners as a priority. United Nations Security Council Resolution 550 of 1984 considers any attempts to settle any part of Famagusta by people other than its inhabitants as inadmissible and calls for the transfer of this area to the administration of the United Nations as a starting measure. Unfortunately, the Security Council resolutions have not been honored up to now. Almost the whole of Famagusta city has been gradually inhabited by legal settlers from Turkey. A small area of the city, around 17%, continues to be encircled by barbed wire, known as the ghost part of the city, being nothing else but a de facto military security zone which strictly forbids anyone from entering. The result of the city of Famagusta to its, the return of the city of Famagusta to its legal owners and lawful inhabitants will create the conditions for a close cooperation between the two communities. It will also pave the way for a comprehensive economic development program of the city of Famagusta to the benefit of both communities. These benefits will strengthen the bond between the two communities, which through socio-economic and cultural cooperation will serve as a catalyst and the driving force in reaching a final solution to the Cyprus problem. Instead, we have witnessed the last few weeks that the illegal so-called government in the occupied part of Cyprus and the government of Turkey issuing statements that apart from illegally occupying and having illegal settlers in 83% of the Famagusta city area, that are planning to inhabit the rest 17% of the city while taking illegal initiative to start doing rebuilding and repair works. 2 minutes and I'm finishing, sorry. This, together with Turkey's illegal violations of Cyprus EEZ and its engagement in oil and gas exploration, as well as the releases of NAFTEX within Cyprus EEZ, constitutes a blatant new invasion, and this time obstructing Cyprus in exercising its sovereign rights in the sea. For this, we are asking Britain to condemn these actions in the loudest possible way, taking practical steps at the same time, such as economic and arms embargo against Turkey, exactly as the European Union did. Cyprus, a member state of the United Nations and the European Union and Commonwealth, should be a unitary state with a single sovereignty, single citizenship, and one international personality, without the Turkish military occupation or presence, without guarantor powers who might find excuses for military or other interference. Like any other human being, the people of Cyprus deserve the right to live in peace and security in their own country, the Sovereign Republic of Cyprus. Thank you very much. Okay. If we can have the minister to, would you like to?
I'll stand here and I'll bellow at everybody if that's quite all right.
Okay, no problem. All right.
Well, High Commissioner, Mr. Deputy Mayor, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, welcome to Westminster Hall. It's good, in fact it's wonderful to see so many people here. Normally when I'm in here, it is virtually empty. But that's usually because I'm speaking and I can enter the place fairly quickly. I'm sorry that I was so late in getting here, but we had one or two small matters to deal with in the House of Commons earlier on this evening, which you've probably read about or you've seen something of on the television. And I have to admit also, I do have to go away in a short while to see the Foreign Secretary. But I wanted to come here to show my support and my solidarity with you and other members of the Famagusta Association. Because I've been to Cyprus many times. I've always enjoyed my visits there. But I didn't go to Varosha and to Famagusta until 2014. And I have to say that what I saw there has left an indelible imprint upon my mind. Because to see those empty beaches, those deserted streets, those broken homes and hotels, where once there was vibrancy, there was life, there was laughter, and now there is nothing but silence, leaves an indelible imprint. And that's why I can assure you, after my visit there, and my more recent visits to Cyprus, I was there something like 3 weeks ago when I had the honour of a meeting with President Anastassiades, I can assure you that you have no better friend than Britain. And I'm sorry that Mr. Mavru, and I'm indebted to him for his detailed history of Cyprus and the recent difficulties. I'm sorry that he feels the way he does, because we do believe that we are good and strong and honest friends of Cyprus. We want to see, as the High Commissioner has, I think, rightly said, an enduring and strong solution to the challenges that face the island of Cyprus. And when I went to Cyprus a couple of weeks ago, I made absolutely clear the British government's view that we deplore drilling in waters close to Cyprus. We absolutely respect and promote the right of Cyprus to drill for oil in its exclusive economic zone, and we believe that those hydrocarbons are there for the benefit of all Cypriots. And Turkey should not drill where it is drilling. So you can be sure now, tomorrow, next week, next year, that we will always support the rights of Cyprus. And I look forward to the day when I'm next able to visit, I hope not too far away, when I can go again to Varosha and to Famagusta. And those beaches will be teeming with people. Those streets will be full of cars and life. Those windows will not be broken and lifeless, but they'll have people living in them again. That is what we want to see. That is what you want to see. And you have my assurance that the British government will support that durable and sustainable peace on the island of Cyprus. Thank you very much for inviting me here today.
Thank you very much. I won't keep you long. Thank you, Mr. Mavros, and thank you very much, High Commissioner. Thank you to all of you for inviting me this evening. In 1974, I was studying in London for A-levels, and half my class in that particular A-level group for British Constitution and Government were Cypriot. Mainly, I have to say, Greek Cypriot. I made a lot of friends, And at the end of term, after our exams, my friends went back to Nicosia, went back to their villages and towns in Cyprus. I'd still never visited the island. I was just 19 years old. I hadn't been yet. But one of my dear friends, Nick Loizu, was killed by a Turkish tank when the invasion took place. And I have to say, dear friends, that that kind of event never leaves you, especially when it happens when you're very young and impressionable. And that impression stayed with me throughout my life, so that by the time I actually visited the island for the first time in 2002 with the Foreign Affairs Select Committee as a Member of Parliament, I remembered Nick. I remembered his family. I remembered the stories I'd been told about the wonderful island, and they were all true. And yet the island was divided in that terrible, terrible invasion of 1974 and the events that followed. So I decided that if I ever got to the position of being a minister or even a shadow minister, Mr. Mavros, I would work as hard as I can to help the people of Cyprus, not just heal those divisions, but bring them back together in a bizonal, bicommunal federal republic, the single identity that you talked about. And I was very privileged to meet our new High Commissioner, just last week, I think it was now. And we discovered that we shared a lot in common about our origins, about our primary school in the same part of North London. Our paths separated at age 18, 19, but that normally happens. But when you share that background and history, as you know, you share a lot more besides. You share values very often. So let me reassure you, dear friends, I was in Cyprus just as the minister was about 3 weeks ago, trying to see what I could do, what my party could do, how we could help the British government. One of the things that my party is determined to do, the Labour Party, is to end the guarantor system. There is, you're right, absolutely no place in a modern state as part of the European Union for a country that has to rely on guarantor powers. Then there's the issue, of course, of the bases. Well, the people I spoke to when I was in Cyprus universally said, no, we don't want you to leave the bases, but we wouldn't mind the rest of the land that isn't used for military purposes. And that's certainly something we would be prepared to look at. I think the British government would too. There isn't a lot that separates us here. But the thing that unites us all is the desire to see Varosha occupied again by the people that used to live there, by the former owners that were thrown out, and to end the occupation by a foreign army. We cannot allow a sovereign state of our European Union, as long as we're members of it, we don't know how long that'll be. We cannot allow a foreign power to occupy any state within the European Union. And I've said this to the Turkish ambassador. I have regional responsibility for Turkey too. And one of my roles is peace and disarmament. I've said you really need to remove the troops. Once you're able to do that, once they leave the island, then there is the possibility, the probability of a solution being found. But as long as they're there, it will be a thorn in the side of any possible solution. But we have to continue working. Whatever the past tells us, we have to look to the future and ensure that we can bring people back together again. We can reunite the island, because there's so much to gain for Cyprus and the people of Cyprus of all backgrounds. I had the privilege when I was there to meet a representative of the Maronite community. And he said, I'm not a Greek Cypriot, I'm a Maronite Cypriot. Of course, he said it in a North London accent, which is very common. But when we go there as British people, we feel a sense of shared, not just responsibility, but of love for the island and the people of the island and its great history. But let's not just look backwards, let's look forwards. And let's ensure that the drilling in Block 7 of the exclusive economic zone ceases, and that the United Nations itself, as well as the guarantor powers for as long as they exist, put that pressure on Turkey and say no more drilling. These hydrocarbons, whatever mineral oil wealth is under the sea, belongs to the people of Cyprus and all of the people of Cyprus, not just an exclusive few, and certainly not to Turkey itself. And the second issue is, of course, the United Nations Security Council Resolution 550 on Varosha itself. I went there in 2002, and just like the minister, I was shocked and horrified to see the devastation, to see the emptiness, the greyness, the broken windows where once there was a thriving holiday centre where people enjoyed themselves, they laughed, they ate together, and they had a lot of fun together in the glorious sunshine. We have to return that town. It's absolutely vital. I've been to Famagusta many, many times. I've had the privilege of seeing some of the work that the EU has financed, the rebuilding work there. But Famagusta belongs to the whole of Cyprus, not just to a very few in that northern part of the territory. So let's do everything we can. We will work hard in the Labour Party. We will work with the British government, and hopefully we will be the British government soon. He said hopefully. But whoever is running the British government, you can be assured of one thing. We are committed to the island, we are committed to justice, and we are committed to peace for every citizen of the wonderful island of Cyprus, and we will continue to do that until we see that reunification, that bizonal, bicommunal federation, till you are one again. Thank you for inviting me tonight.
Sir Roger Kay, would you like to say a few words? Sir Roger Kay is president of the APPG for Cyprus.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, an apology. I expect you're all aware one or two things have been happening in the main chamber, which have kept most of us away. I don't know how many of my colleagues have been able to get here, but clearly not very many. That is not for want of trying. The expression of interest was about a page and a half long, but we have actually all been nailed down voting in the chamber since 7 o'clock. So for that, I can only apologise. A week ago on Saturday, you sorted that out well, didn't you? A week ago on Saturday, I went to see a very old friend of mine, Vassos Lyssarides, who is 100 next year. But he's still got all his marbles. And as I left, he said, Roger, we want a deal, but not just any deal, we want a fair deal. Now, where have I heard that before? It's something we're looking for in this building as well. But I think our job is to strive to try to help you to secure that. On Sunday, a week ago Sunday, I met with the President of the Republic, Nikos Anastasiadis, to assure him, on behalf of all of my parliamentary colleagues, and we don't play party politics with Cypriot politics, that you have our support, and he has our support, and he will continue to do so. I have a feeling, I don't have a feeling, I'm absolutely certain, that it was left to Mustafa Akinci, who I believe to be a good man, and I've known him for over 30 years, and Nikos Anastasiadis, they would do a deal. And I know that the reason that Crans-Montana broke up was not because of Akinci or because of Anastasiadis, but because of Erdogan. And the tone changed after Mr. Akinci went to Ankara and returned, and the talks collapsed. But we have to hope and expect that those talks will start again fairly soon. Signs are that the two gentlemen concerned are going to meet possibly in Paris. I don't know if that's right, but that was the last I heard. And that was certainly the intention. And we need to get things moving again. We're not going to get anywhere by not talking to each other. But I come back to where I started with, as I said, my old friend. We don't just want any deal, we want a fair deal, and that's what we're all working for. Thank you very much indeed.
Yes, I'm Gavin Davis. I'm the MP for Swansea West. I was for some years on the Council of Europe, as Roger is as well, and therefore people will know Stella Kyriakidis, who used to be the president there. Following the previous speeches, I'm not going to give a detailed speech about Famagusta, but we're really here to say in solidarity that we all want to see peace, harmony, unity, people, the communities working together, and obviously not occupation. This is a great evening, a great celebration. The 1960, of course, was a wonderful year. It was the year I was born, in fact. And so I've got something to celebrate about as well. There are reasons to look forward to a positive future. This scar across the island of Cyprus has gone on for so long. We saw something similar, of course, not the same, but in some sense similar, in Northern Ireland. And these things can be solved, but at the same time we've seen in the debates and discussions around Brexit that there are risks that when progress is made, things can unravel. These are very, very sensitive issues. We know what the situation is. There's been enormous amounts of discussion amongst all the parties over many years. There's been United Nations resolutions. And what is now needed is good faith and goodwill to move forward. Obviously, we need more than that. We need a positive action. And I know across the political spectrum in the United Kingdom, we'll do everything we can to help you to get to the destination of peace and harmony and justice and fairness that is needed. Occupation of Varusha is unacceptable. Clearly, we're talking about issues around the prosperity, the port, the tourism, and the future of Cyprus. I think there is light in the tunnel, a long way ahead. And I know that Andrew Donis, who isn't with us tonight, is one of Parliament's famous Cypriots, who's well aware of these issues and has made again the parallel comment about the difficulties in Northern Ireland, the opportunity. I know in Cyprus there was great celebration when we actually got peace in Northern Ireland, and now there's concern here that that might be unravelling. But I wish you well tonight, and we'll join your celebration. And I don't really want to keep you from your dinner, so I've got to stop.
Caroline Harris, would you like to say a few words? Okay. Bumble, say a few words.
I know you've had a lot of speeches tonight, so I won't repeat what's already been said. I'm very proud to be the Vice Chair of the APPG for Cyprus. We do some great work. So Roger is the Chair of the APPG, so it's cross-party, and we do try and work together and raise the issue of Cyprus in Parliament. There have been some changes in government, so we have a new minister who's responsible for Europe and for Cyprus. That's Chris Pincher. He was here earlier, I understand, and he made his position quite clear. It's very sad that we are still in the situation where Famagusta is still occupied. We do hope that pressure from the international community does bear fruits, that we do have a resolution, that we do have the talks that have been promised. So hopefully there will be more talks. You know, that they need to start soon. There's a fear that the window of opportunity is very small, so we need to make sure that all the groups get together and do have those discussions. We raise the issues in Parliament, so we do what we can as parliamentarians to raise the issues of Cyprus. I've raised the issue about the drill ships in the Mediterranean, Turkey's drill ships breaching international law. We've had other examples of where that's happened, where Turkey's breached international law with the incursion into northern Syria. These views have been made very clear to the government to make sure that they take more action in these areas, because Turkey cannot be allowed to get away with breaking international law time and time again. So we need to put pressure on them to actually, international pressure has to be put on them to make sure that they're not allowed to get away with these abuses. So we'll do what we can in Parliament. I'm the MP for Enfield Southgate. I'm very proud to be able to represent one of the biggest Cypriot communities in the UK. So we're all there for you, to serve you and to help you in any way we can. So we'll do whatever we can in Parliament. And I want to thank Vasily and everyone for making tonight possible. I think I've gone on for far too long. So I hope you enjoy the rest of the evening. Thank you.
Can I ask the Vice Mayor of Famagusta to say a few words first?
dear members of the Parliament, Commissioner, Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, dear friends. First of all, I would like to express our sincere thanks on behalf of the Famagusta municipality to the Famagusta Association of Great Britain for the invitation to participate on this event and for giving us the opportunity to address the event, expressing our thoughts and ideas on the Cyprus issue and on Famagusta in particular. It is with great agony and profound disappointment that we observe the recent provocative and utterly unacceptable plans of Turkey in respect with Varosha. The Turkish Minister of Foreign Affairs and other Turkish government officials being consistently disrespectful to international law and order and contrary to the provisions of the United Nations Security Council resolutions, in particular resolutions 550 of 1984 and 789 of 1992, declare publicly their intention to extend the colonization of our hometown to include the fenced-off area. We very much fear that if Turkey's threats do materialize, this will unequivocally mark the end of the inspirations of the majority of the people of both communities in Cyprus to see this island reunified. Such an unlawful action would not only lead to unnecessary escalations of the tensions in the region, but it will regrettably constitute the stepping stone towards the permanent division of our country, a most unfortunate development which we will never endorse. At the time when the peace process is at a critical point, the immediate return of Varosha to its lawful owners, as provided by the United Nations, will prove a real game changer, a rigid and stable bridge leading to peace, a step towards eliminating the mistrust, a unique case study setting the ideal example that Greek Cypriots and Turkish Cypriots can live and prosper together in a reunified Cyprus. Excellencies, dear friends, having this opportunity, I would like to reaffirm once again the position of the Famagusta municipality in favor of finding a comprehensive settlement of the Cyprus issue on the basis of a bizonal bicommunal federation with political equality between the two communities, as set out in the relevant resolutions of the United Nations, which shall provide for a state with a single sovereignty, a single international identity, and a single citizenship. A settlement that will free Cyprus from occupation and colonization, will reunify our country and our people, will reinstate the protect human rights and the basic freedoms of all Cypriots. A settlement that will enable us to return to our beloved city. At the same time, we strongly support the resumption of the talks under the auspices of the United Nations, appreciating that this process is the only way for a peaceful settlement of the Cyprus issue. The Municipal Council looks forward to the resumption of the dialogue without any further delay, under the auspices of the General Secretary, aiming to reach an agreed settlement on the issue. However, we consider that both the illegal actions of Turkey within the Cypriot exclusive economic zone and the entry in the fenced-off area of Famagusta to prepare a property inventory, as well as the statements of Turkish Cypriot officials on the opening of the fenced-off area and the property status of FKAF, are unacceptable and do not contribute in the creation of a good climate that will enable the resumption of the negotiations and the final settlement of the issue. Once again, we make a call towards the international community, the United Nations and the 5 permanent members of the Security Council to intensify the current efforts, exercising their influence on Ankara to change its current intransigent policy and comply with the principles of international legality. Finally, we would like to extend to all of you our appreciation and gratitude for your support and solidarity all these 45 years of our struggle for peace and reunification of Cyprus. Thank you very much.
For being here today, and we continue now with the reception and snacks and drinks. Thank you very much.
Εδώ με αφορμή την επέτειο της ανεξαρτησίας της Κύπρου έχει γίνει μια συνάντηση, μια πρωτοβουλία από πλευράς του δόκτωρος Βασίλη Μαύρου για την Αμμοχώστο και τα ψηφίσματα της Αμμοχώστου.
Ναι,
μιλήστε μας για τη σημερινή σας πρωτοβουλία.
Ευχαριστώ, Ελευθερία. Ναι, είναι μια πρωτοβουλία του Συνδέσμου Αμμοχώστου της Επιτροπής. Κάναμε μια πάρα πολύ σκληρή δουλειά για να πετύχουμε το αποτέλεσμα που βλέπετε σήμερα, Ελευθερία. Όπως είδατε, η αίθουσα ήταν κατάμεστη από κόσμον. Ήρθαν πάρα πολλοί βουλευτές. Άλλοι δεν είχαν καιρό, δεν είχαν χρόνο λόγω της ημέρας του Brexit σήμερα να μιλήσουν. Αλλά είχαμε και αρκετές ομιλίες από βουλευτές και από το House of Lords. Είπανε καλά λόγια, είπανε για την κατάσταση στην Κύπρο. Μιλήσανε ότι πρέπει επιτέλους να βρεθεί μια λύση. Εμείς από δικής μας πλευράς τονίσαμε και πάλι ότι πρέπει επιτέλους η Αγγλία να αφήσει τα λόγια και τους επένους και να αναλάβει πρωτοβουλίες πιο καλές, πιο δυνατές πρωτοβουλίες και να πιέσουν οπωσδήποτε την Τουρκία να βάλουν σε εφαρμογή τα ψηφίσματα των Ηνωμένων Εθνών. Ότι δεν μπορούν να λένε ότι εσείς προχωράτε στα συνομιλίες, στις διαπραγματεύσεις και εμείς είμαστε πίσω και σας λέμε εντάξει προχωρήστε, ας πούμε. Δεν είναι. Η Βρετανία ήταν μια από τις 3 χώρες που υπογράψαν τις συμφωνίες του 1960 και δεν μπορούν να μένουν με τα χέρια δεμένα. Τις βάσεις στην Κύπρο τις έχουν, χρησιμοποιούν τις βάσεις. Πρέπει οπωσδήποτε να λάβουν πιο ενεργό δράση, να λάβουν μέτρα. Παραδείγματος χάρη τα μέτρα που έλαβε και πιο πρόσφατα η Ευρωπαϊκή Ένωση, όπως παραδείγματος χάρη το εμπάρκο, το οικονομικό εμπάρκο και το εμπάρκο στα όπλα εναντίον της Τουρκίας. Έτσι αυτό είναι το κυρίως θέμα που θίξαμε σήμερα. Το άλλο, έχουμε κάνει το δικό μας το ψήφισμα με το οποίο ζητούμε από την Αγγλική Βουλή, από την Βρετανική Βουλή να το προωθήσει και το οποίο μιλά ξεκάθαρα για τις δικές μας τις θέσεις για να ελευθερωθεί τέλος πάντων ο τόπος μας από τους Τούρκους εισβολείς, να επιστρέψουν οι πρόσφυγες πίσω, οι Αμμοχωστιανοί να δοθεί προτεραιότητα στην Αμμοχώστο, να επιστραφεί η Αμμοχώστος πίσω στους νόμιμους κατοίκους της.
Σχετικά με το θέμα της Αμμοχώστου, οι Αμμοχωστιανοί εδώ στο Λονδίνο ανησυχούν, υπάρχει...
Βεβαίως, Ελευθερία, υπάρχει έτσι ένας αναβρασμός και μια μεγάλη ανησυχία που διακατέχει τον κόσμο, τους Αμμοχωστιανούς, διότι Και αυτοί, ενώ νομίζαμε ότι επιτέλους θα δινόταν η Αμμόχωστος πίσω στους κατοίκους της, βλέπουμε ότι το 80% και περισσότερο της Αμμοχώστου συνεχίζεται και κρατείται από τους Τούρκους, ή μάλλον κατοικείται από τους Τούρκους illegal settlers, και τώρα απέναντίας θέλουν να κατοικήσουν και το υπόλοιπο 20% της Αμμοχώστου. Και έτσι εμείς προσπαθούμε όσο δυνατόν μπορούμε και εμείς με τη δική μας τη σειρά να βάλουμε πιέσεις ώστε αυτό να μην γίνει πραγματικότητα. Μεταξύ άλλων είχαμε και παλιά πάει μέχρι και τον Ακκιντσί και του μιλήσαμε για το θέμα της Αμμοχώστου, και φαίνεται ότι ο Ακκιντσής ήταν έτσι πολύ ζεστός με το θέμα της Αμμοχώστου, ήθελε να επιστρέψει η Αμμόχωστον πίσω, αλλά δυστυχώς φαίνεται ότι οι δυνάμεις στην τουρκοκυπριακή πλευρά, στην τουρκοκυπριακή διοίκηση, νίκησαν αυτές οι οποίες ακολουθούν την Τουρκία. Και δυστυχώς είχαμε πρόσφατα αυτά τα statements που είπαν ότι θα κατοικήσουν αυτή την υπόλοιπη περιοχή της Αμμοχώστου. Αυτό είναι ένα έσχος το οποίο εμείς σαν βαροσόδες δεν μπορούμε να δεχτούμε ελευθερία. Και τάξαμε εμείς σαν σκοπό μας να συνεχίσουμε τον αγώνα μας μέχρι να επιστρέψουμε πίσω, μέχρι την τελική επιστροφή της Αμμοχώστου και όλων των περιοχών, των κατεχομένων περιοχών της Κύπρου. Εμείς δεν καταθέτουμε τη σημαία του αγώνα. Αυτό να το κάνουμε ξεκάθαρο και να δώσουμε και ελπίδα και καρτερικότητα ταυτόχρονα και στον κόσμο της Αμμοχώστου, στον προσφυγικό κόσμο, ότι είμαστε εμείς εδώ, προσπαθούμε, κάνουμε ό,τι μπορούμε και να μην χάνουν ποτέ το θάρρος τους. Αυτά ήθελα να πω.
Ευχαριστούμε πολύ.
Ευχαριστώ, Ελευθερία.